Welcome to GeeK KetchUp. I'm Kyle Eckert alongside Chris Heck. We're two lifelong friends with a passion for all things geek, whether it's gaming, movies, television, wrestling, comics, whatever. If it's nerdy, there's a good chance we're into it. You are listening to Chapter 7 of Season 1. Today, we are once again headed to a galaxy far, far away to discuss something 40 years in the making, the ninth and final movie in the Skywalker Saga. Yes, it's time we talked about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. It is a very special chapter of GeeK KetchUp today because not only are we getting a chance to share our reactions, thoughts, and feelings on the latest Star Wars movie, The Rise of Skywalker, but we are happy to have our first ever guest on the podcast, a friend we met many moons ago and White Lotus member, Mike Fee. Mike, thanks for joining us and being on the podcast.
Hello there. How's everybody doing?
Good,
Uh,
buddy. Glad to have you.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Pretty awesome to be here.
And man, we are thrilled to have you here, thrilled to have you on talking about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. This has been a huge talking point for our group for a long, long time. A lot of different feelings and thoughts on the previous movies leading into this one. So we're excited to see how you reacted to it when you went to see it this time.
Friendships have been tested over the years as these recent movies have come out.
It's
That,
true.
it's hard to deny that fact.
True. Friendships were tested, but as I said, Chris and I have known Mike for a number of years now. But Mike, you and I met back in college at the old Salisbury University. Go Gauls! We met under very interesting circumstances. In fact, given how things started, it's actually a little surprising that you ended up talking to me after that very first day.
Yeah, I mean it's true. I kind of met you in a throwaway course. I believe it was poetry. I kind of just took it as a filler class to get an English credit, and you were the only one that didn't have somebody sit next to you when I walked in the door because, of course, I was the last one there. So yeah, that's how it all started, really.
Yeah, old Poetry 101. I
Yeah.
I I took it for the exact same reason. It was just a throwaway. You needed to fill one last English course, to get it in there. I wasn't sure if we were gonna bring up the infamous quiz.
I mean, that's entirely up to you. I'm comfortable admitting that I tried to get you to give me answers, but you were steadfast in the fact that no, you need to study or read the readings, and if you don't do it, I can't help you out, man. There's nothing I can do. So I thought it was pretty funny and something that again, is remained true to this day. Once you make up your mind, it's no going back.
That's accurate. That's accurate. I have been that way. So it's a little surprising. I stood my ground that day, said, "Nope, no one's cheating off me." Not because at the time, you're just some random guy that
Right?
sat
Yeah,
next to
yeah.
me in poetry, Did I know that 12, 15 years later, we'd still be best friends? No.
I mean,
Uh,
So,
Lotus works in mysterious ways, my friend.
so let's just admit here, you all really took Poetry 101 in college for the girls, right? Like you were thinking, I'm going to learn how to say some sappy words. This class is going to be full of women. That had to be it, right?
I mean, full disclosure for me, my girlfriend at the time pretty much told me I was taking it because she was an English major and she said it was an easy class, so I just listened to her. I don't really know what it was for Kyle, but it was just more or less simple, stupid for me.
I say for me, it filled the date and time slot that I needed and the English credit. So it was like, yeah, this is what it is.
All
Poetry
right.
it is.
All right.
But nonetheless, we did become friends and have remained so to this day. But before we get too into the nitty gritty here and talk Star Wars, we wanted to get a little bit of a background on Mike. So, Mike, give the listeners some of the things that you geek out on. What are you into?
All right, so some of the biggest things I guess that I geek out on. Harry Potter probably would be number one on that list.
Nice.
I'm a big fan of them. I've probably read books 1 through 7 at least 2 dozen times, personally.
Wow.
Um,
Impressive.
Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra again, even though they came out a little bit later in my life, I still think that they're awesome awesome shows.
I'm
And
not
if you
gonna make
haven't
you
watched
think
them,
that
you
of
need
me.
to do a binge and find out a way to watch them immediately. Um, Another big thing for me is Dragon Ball Z. Although I think I'm pretty much alone in my group of friends. The only one that knows anything about that would probably be me. But also just normal comic book stuff, Batman, Green Lantern, Spider Man, all that good stuff.
Nice, nice.
And video games, always online playing some sort of video game. Right now, mainly it's actually for all of 2019, it was Apex. Apex Legends has been my game of choice. So yeah,
Dude, I didn't even realize you were playing that much Apex. I picked it up when it first came out and got into it a little bit, but was still stuck on Fortnite. I didn't even realize you were playing that much.
honestly, it's just one of those games where if I have a half an hour, it takes 5 minutes to boot it up. Not even 5 minutes to boot it up, to tell you the truth. But then I can drop in and out of a game where Fortnite there's always that lag on the load
Oh
time,
my god,
for
takes
battle
forever.
royales, and it's just a lot faster pace, it's three-man teams all the time, and it's just run and gun, which is if I'm playing a shooter, especially a first-person shooter, I want it to be run and gun,
For
just
sure.
fast pace, full throttle the whole time.
Yeah, I really liked what they did in that, but I couldn't get enough people really to get over there at the time because it was like Fortnite was out. I think Blackout on Black Ops was out, and then they dropped that, so there was kind of some battle royal overload, going on.
Well, whenever you're ready to jump back in, I'll right now is a good time to jump back in. They've recently added a new feature. It's like the firing range. You can go in, have every gun in the game at your disposal, have every attachment that goes on the gun, learn about all the different weaponry and all the different attachments that go with it,
Nice.
all the different body armors. Because it is kind of a loot based game where you want to upgrade as you go along. You start with the
Right.
base, but then you can upgrade to level 2, level 3, and then especially in the end game, they have level 4 armor where you just need it or you're SOL.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, whenever you wanna get ready and jump back in, man, let me know.
We'll have to get on that. I'll hit you up on the side, figure out what console you're on. So a little tangent there, but definitely geek focused. Never a problem here. So throw it back over here to Kyle. Keep us moving forward.
Keep us moving forward. Indeed, indeed. So we got a little background on Mike, but today is all about Star Wars. So, Mike, what is your history with Star Wars?
So, I don't know, you guys can't judge me on this. So, because I was born in '87, I wasn't really around for the first, trilogy. I didn't really even know what Star Wars was until The Phantom Menace came out, and only then did that pique my interest because I think of the outcry and uproar from all the people that didn't wanna see, I guess, a prequel story or anything like that.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and to tell you the truth, one of my, one of the memories I have about that time period is, Pepsi came out with a line of collectible Coke cans in between I'm sorry, not Coke cans, but Pepsi cans. In between me and, my friends on my street, it was the goal to collect them all, and, that's where really where I learned a lot about Star Wars at first, and then that piqued my interest. Around that same time, Nintendo 64 had recently come out, so once The Phantom Menace released, some good games came out on the 64. I had, was it Pod
Oh
Racer
yeah.
was a big
Oh,
one,
Pod Racer.
and
Yeah.
then Shadows of the Empire. I had to look it up because I couldn't remember the name. I could remember what the cartridge looked like, and I can remember the levels in my head vividly running through them, but I could not remember the name of it, but
You played as a
Shadows
bounty
of the
hunter,
Empire.
a
Yeah,
third
exactly.
person. Yep.
Yep.
Did you ever play Rogue Squadron, the
I
flying
played
game?
it, it was one of those weekend, rentals where I got it, didn't really know what I was playing at the time or didn't realize how good it was, and then I think that's why I ended up buying Shadows of the Empire because I thought that game
Yeah.
was Rogue Squadron. Because yeah, that game was way better.
Yeah, there definitely were some good Star Wars games on N64. That now that you're bringing it up, that might have been like one of the pinnacle like Star Wars video game consoles that we had. Of course, PlayStation had some good games come out there, and then we hit kind of the lull in
Lol.
Star
Oh,
Wars
yeah.
games. But good reference there, Mike.
And then, after that, that's just kinda where my interest started, and then slowly but surely it just snowballed and continued to go as the pop culture, uh, boom occurred, and it was suddenly cool to be into all kinds of geek things and easier to get a hold of lore and especially Star Wars, and what draws me to certain fan bases is how much lore is behind it and what you can do with it and how willing, the fan base is to kind of write their own write their own lore.
Fan fiction and stuff like that.
Yeah, fan fiction, stuff like that.
Well, and Star
So
Wars is definitely one that leads the way as far as fan fiction and fan theories and what fans want to see versus what maybe they got, and then voicing their opinion about that.
exactly.
So I have to
Yes.
ask a follow-up here. Did you get all the Coke cans or the Pepsi cans?
Of course not. There was those few rare ones that you could never come by. But no, we never did. And I honestly thought that for whatever reason, we thought if we collected the entire set that you would get free Pepsi or Mountain because it came on all different brands. It wasn't just Pepsi, it was Mountain Dew and it was Dr. Pepper and Diet Pepsi. And all of those cans you needed to get a case of each because I think you could only get certain characters in certain cans.
Gotcha.
And
Right.
just thinking back now, I would never want to be my parents. I begged and begged, please buy me a case of Mountain Dew. Like never
Maybe
in my life would
yeah.
that happen.
If I don't get the General Grievous
Right.
Mountain Dew,
I won't get Mountain Dew for life.
come on, I need it. I need it.
But yeah, unfortunately, no, never completed the set.
Dang.
I should look it up on eBay. It's been a while, so
Yeah,
That
that would be quite the collector's item, though, because I know over the time, so many different restaurants and places like that have combined with movies. I think of like I have Flintstones and Batman Forever cups from Burger King,
that's
and
amazing.
we've talked about the Pizza Hut bats and the Griffey bats before. So that would be quite a collector's item.
yeah, somebody somewhere probably has them all, and there's probably a million other people that got, like, 10,000 Jar Jar Binks cans, and that was
Exactly,
probably the one that was on, like, every can, and then you got, like, 1 Yoda.
exactly. Yeah, they were on every can, and then yep, 100%.
Yeah, Jar Jar's totally your common.
Yeah, common Jar Jar cookie.
Oh, he's a crazy dark Sith.
Right.
Oh, that's great.
But we did want to before we jump into here, we do you mentioned playing the Star Wars video games and Shadows of the Empire where you got to act as a bounty hunter, so that begs the question of being in the Star Wars universe, if you could live in that Star Wars universe, would you rather be a bounty hunter that uses guns and blasters, or would you rather be a force wielder, a Sith or a Jedi?
I mean, I don't know. If anyone says they want to be a bounty hunter, I just flat out think they're lying. Because if you can have a lightsaber and you can have force powers, then
Right?
you don't need a jetpack or blaster. So
Preach.
I 100% would be a Jedi, I think, or maybe even a Sith. But I definitely would want to be a saber wielder.
A saber wielder, nice. Do
Yeah.
you have a preference on color? Preference on color?
um. I mean, honestly, when I think a green saber is always classic, but a white saber would be kind of cool.
Ooh.
Although they're really rare and hard to, like, come by, but
Yeah,
from what I've read and, again, lore, what I've read on that is just kind of a cool concept. You have to find a red bleeding crystal and then heal it, bring it back from the dark side, so I always thought that would be
I did not know that about
Me
the
neither.
kyber crystals. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. That's pretty
But, yeah,
sweet.
I was gonna say that or just a plain just green one because, of course, it's classic and it's awesome, and Luke and Yoda had one, so I'm no better than them, so why do I think I deserve a white saber?
why not? Hey, but that's personal preference, and the colors on lightsabers have come and gone in and out of lore. I know for a while, I think of when the prequels came out, they were saying like, "Oh, the different colored sabers mean different colored things, or different what type of Jedi you are, or your focus, or this or that." And then that all seemed to get canned for a little bit. And now I think it's starting to come back with a couple of the visual dictionaries that have come out for Star Wars. They're starting to bring back the idea that the color saber you have shows what kind of Jedi you are. And the poor Siths, they just get red.
And plus, the final scene in Rise of Skywalker kind of kicked that door open too. No
Oh, that's true.
spoilers.
That's true. But we'll get there. We'll get there. But speaking of getting there, let's go ahead and get into it. Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is, of course, the ninth and final movie in the Skywalker saga. Based on the characters created by George Lucas, it is the third movie in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, which encompasses Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and Episode 8, The Last Jedi. It's produced by Lucasfilms and Bad Robot Productions, distributed by Disney Studios, of course. Rise of Skywalker was co-written by Terrio and J.J. Abrams, so J.J. Abrams was not alone in writing this one, but he did direct it solo. So J.J. Abrams is the director. The story concludes the arcs of characters Rey, played by Ridley, Finn, played by John Boyega, and Poe Dameron, played by Oscar Isaac, as well as Kylo Ren, aka Ben Solo, who's played by Adam Driver. There are many other characters and actors that appear in the film, reprising roles from earlier Star Wars entries and rounding out the entire saga, but the core story does focus on these four who were introduced in the last trilogy. So we'll get in here right away. Overall thoughts. I'll kick this one off. I'll kick this one off because I think I might be in the middle here, given the history with Star Wars. Overall, I actually really enjoyed Rise of Skywalker. It didn't blow me away. It didn't blow me away or anything. It's definitely not instantly my favorite of the Skywalker saga, but I think it's probably my favorite of the sequel trilogy. And I think, just overall, it held up. You're always gonna get good music, good CGI with a Star Wars movie. The plot was a little thin, but I've also gone on record a few times saying that all Star Wars plots are a little thin. All sci-fi movies are a little thin. So I was okay with it. As all in all, I went in looking for a happy experience and just not to wanna be breaking my phone or punching somebody, and I came out feeling that way. I felt alright about it. We'll jump over here to the guest and then get to Chris. Mike, what were your overall thoughts on The Rise of Skywalker?
So initially, I'll probably be, crucified if I don't say this. Initially, I did love it, but if I'm being honest, after sitting and thinking about it and hashing things in my head, I was kind of disappointed how everything ended. I thought there was huge buildup and huge um, potential, but overall, it just kind of seemed like they took an easy approach to not making fans angry and just kind of went the safe route. Where previously it didn't seem like that mattered, and they were kind of carving their own way and trying to make sure everyone understood it's supposed to be a separate story from the past, two trilogies. But yeah, I kind of feel that they may have played it a little bit too safe, unfortunately.
A little too safe. That's fair. It had a tall order to both not only close out the sequel trilogy, but to close out at 40 years and 9 movies. And that's tough to do. It's always hard to close something out, but when you're trying to close two things out simultaneously, it can get difficult. I don't mean to just sit here and defend it a little bit, because I agree they did play it safe. Chris, what would you think? Did you like it? Not like it?
Oh, like you said, and I've been in our group probably the most staunch person against the current state of Star Wars. But just giving its due, I did like the Rise of Skywalker the most out of the new three. I definitely still felt like it was full of plot holes, and watching each movie as they went, it became more and more apparent that they didn't have a true sense of direction of we want to hit these notes and we want to take you down this story. It felt piecemealed as we went along, and to me, looking back, you know, eh, a lot of it was just because I think they just wanted to get Star Wars back, and they accomplished that goal. And so, with the Rise of Skywalker, I thought it worked fine as a conclusion to the saga. Bringing Palpatine back, and I guess we really should say, if you haven't seen the movie, this is going to be entirely full of
Oh,
spoilers.
yeah. My bad. My bad.
But no worries.
Put it on the title.
Spoiler alert. But like all that worked fine, but it just still felt piecemealed. It didn't flow throughout, each of the movies. Like even the original three, right? There was a good flow, even though they still had some plot holes and stuff. There was a good flow as you went through. You had a kind of a true beginning, middle, and end, and there was just a lot I felt missing here. So overall, like CGI, music, visuals, entertainment factor, all still solid. Star Wars are all entertaining, but as a movie, especially from the plot standpoint, I felt like they all struggled, and this one was right in there with um, that same issue.
That's fair. That's fair. Looking at it, then the holes that were there regarding the plot. What bothered you the most? And we'll go back to Chris for this one. What bothered you the most out of the lack of the plot?
Well, I mean, overall, it was odd character development. I felt like there was, throughout the whole trilogy, there was some stuff that took some twists and turns, but that were kind of contradictory with what they were setting up. But then in Rise of Skywalker, I mean, you've got whole moments that happen. Like I think about when Finn, they're all thinking they're gonna die, and he's like, "Oh, Ray, I got to tell you something," and then just never comes back to it the rest of the way.
Not a
Um,
word.
and that you have the introduction of like Captain Phasma 2.0 for Poe's girlfriend or whatever for like 2 seconds, and then they never really address her again. It was just stuff like that where they just kept pushing through. That I thought was it was like, why are you even here? If you're not going to actually add value and give me something, then why even waste the time to put it in? But kind of along those same lines, I actually was going to throw the question to Mike because I'm curious. Like, do you know going from texting us, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I love that film," to saying something as strong as like, "I'm not sure I really liked it that much anymore." Was there like a specific moment or set of moments that kind of like was your aha moment as to maybe my thoughts are a little different than what I initially was feeling?
So yeah, again, spoiler warning. When after the big lightsaber duel on top of the ocean swept, down Death Star and stuff like that between Kylo and Ray, again, Kylo has a reckoning and he comes face to face with I can only assume is a force projection of his father, and has this whole heart to heart meeting with Han and all this stuff, and decides, no, I don't need my awesome, cool hilted lightsaber. I'm gonna throw this into the middle of the ocean and go just be. He was built up to be more filled with rage than Vader because he wanted to be Vader so bad,
Yep.
and in the angst of not being able to reach that, and then they figuratively and literally throw it all away just for a soppy yay, and just to put Harrison Ford in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't really understand it. The character development was there. They brought back his helmet and they made it red and they fixed it and it was awesome. And then again, nah,
For
we
like
don't
two
need that
seconds, it was
anymore.
awesome.
Right. That I think once I sat back and realized actually what happened, because again, I was really enjoying it up until that point, and then I kind of was like, okay, all right, interesting way to handle that. And then it all just continued to go downhill. And it was just, I felt after that it got cornier and cornier up until the very last part where, "Oh, let me," I'll
Little
stop
force
there because
heal, a little
I
force
don't, yeah.
heal. Yeah.
Yeah, the force heal, and then I fade away into nothing and we make out for a quick second and then I die. So
Sure.
one of the biggest letdowns I think I feel in the entire last three films, because I thought he was the coolest character coming out of the first film. He was full of rage. He was this character with a lot of untapped force power. Because again, if you can harness the rage, it's really powerful.
Yeah.
He was able to stop, Poe, freeze him, and freeze a giant blast, coming from a rifle in the first movie within like, the first scene.
Yep.
And that's
Yeah.
incredible because it really wasn't shown to be done before. I mean, Vader, again, incredibly powerful, and all he wanted to do was be Vader, and he threw it all away.
Yeah.
Again, cool that you wanna, be a better person, but this is Star Wars, so it's not like I really care if you come back from the dark side, but commit, man, come on.
See,
You're so wishy-washy the entire series. You don't know if you have the strength to kill your dad, then you feel really bad. Well, then, you know what? You probably shouldn't have killed him in the first place. I don't understand.
Before I know Kyle's about to jump in here, but I have to say that I feel like I don't even have to talk right now because Mike is just summing up everything that I felt. since like The Force Awakens, because the moment that really struck me was when like Kylo, yeah, they built him up, and when he took that mask off in Force Awakens, I was done. Like when he's like crying and all, like that ruined it for me. But I think Kyle's gonna come in here with a little bit of a different thought.
Well, what I'll say is the one part about Kylo Ren that I always enjoyed was that he was a different take on a villain, that he was evil drawn towards the light, and I thought that was a cool dynamic. So, I'm not saying that he was a perfect character and they had perfect arcs, because I what I think ultimately happened with the Star Wars sequel trilogy is, 7 went one direction, 8 went in a total other, and then 9 came back and said, "Nope, I this is the way we need to go to get here." But I thought the idea that you have a Sith Lord who wants to be evil, feels he should be evil, but has the light inside of him saying, "This is not who you are. This is, you can be better, you can be more." I always really enjoyed that. So I think at the end when he tosses his lightsaber and his hilted saber into the ocean, it's kind of a reckoning moment. He's allowing the light back in. He's allowing things to take back over. So I really enjoyed Kylo Ren. I thought Kylo Ren was probably my favorite character as far as 7, 8, 9, partially because
Agreed.
I everyone else just didn't do it for me. I could have cared less about Rey, Finn. Poe is just dry as all get out. But so Kylo, so maybe it's just by default, Kylo Ren was my favorite character, which is always how you wanna pick your favorite character by default.
See, I think my problem with Ray, and it was highlighted again in this movie, was that they just I know they were trying to do mystery and who's her parents and things like that, but they were just like having her skip through levels of
Right. Yep.
power with literally no explanation. And they tried to come back in Skywalker and be like, "Oh, she's a Palpatine, and that's why." Shut up, fanboys. But like everything we had seen before, we knew that yes, the Force can uh, manifest itself, in different ways and different people based on how much entombment they have with the midichlorians and all that.
Mhm.
But at the same
Believe in force.
time, we've also been taught and conditioned over 40 years that in order to fully get to the point where you can do these things, you truly have to freaking train and put a lot of effort into becoming things. And it's just like every time we saw Ray, she's just doing things we've never seen before, seemingly, out of thin air. Just, oh, I can heal people now. I watched The Mandalorian last night before this. We came on this adventure, and I saw Baby Yoda do this, so now I know how to do it. It was like those kinds of things, and then in Skywalker, we see that where it's like they have this whole scene where she's trying to train. Leia's built this Jedi course for her, which at that time I'm going, how does Leia know how to build a Jedi course, to be honest? But anyways, she does that, and she and Ray doesn't finish it. Ray, and I know she gets kind of distracted or whatever, but like she fails to finish the course. She kind of ensued that she had not finished the course yet ever, and then like the next thing we know, she's jumping on the Death Star wreckage, and like just doing
Taking on the big C
yeah,
with no
and
issue.
jumping over a TIE fighter as it like, what? Come on. I don't know. It
That
just
was kinda cool though.
oh, they look great, yeah, they're like Michael Bay moments, they look amazing, but it's just for plot continuity and all of that, which I I can give up some things, right, when I'm watching movies. It doesn't have to be perfect, but, like, I can't overlook just giant gaping holes or complete tarnishment of what you have built us and conditioned us to expect, That's what Lucas made us all expect, and, you can't just be like, "Oh, that doesn't fucking matter anymore," and you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, it just felt real weird. So,
Yeah, I
No,
mean,
it's fair, it's fair. A lot of them just instantly learned how to do certain things, and it's funny you talk about Ray learning how to force heal. She did the same thing with Ben Solo. Like, right there at the end, Ben just instinctively knew how to force heal somebody. It's like, "Well, an hour ago, you didn't know that was possible,
right, and
and
now
now
you're
you
capable of it?
instinctively know how." Yeah.
Yeah, it
they're
it made
they're
no
connected, man.
Well, the connected, so let's talk about the connection there for a minute. When How did you all feel when Ray passed passed him the
Lightsaber?
lightsaber, so he could fight off the Knights of Ren. Did you think that that's just cheesy and they're using the connection just to use the connection, or like is that well thought out, well planned? Mike, what did you think about that?
Well, first off, the Knights of Ren were also probably one of the bigger disappointments of the entire movie because they seem so cool and
Never did anything.
damaging, but they
Yeah,
didn't do anything. They just
yeah.
stood there and tried to look intimidating, but then all got beat up by one dude who pulled a lightsaber out of nowhere. I didn't understand it. I still fully don't understand it. Not to lie, I don't understand what is going on between those 2 and they touched each other the one time when they were meditating together, but I don't understand how they're now able to pass physical objects in between space and time, and I don't get it. I don't understand, and again, it just creates a plot hole for me because it's something that I don't really remember seeing in
Yeah,
any iteration of Star Wars canon before this.
I agree. I wish they would have explored that a little bit more because really, like, the biggest detail we got out of the whole thing was that Snoke connected them, right? But, like, I don't think they ever told us why, right? Like, they never really truly said exactly why he connected them, did they?
No, they said that well, they hinted that Snoke was a creation of Palpatine. And then when they're in Palpatine's lair there at the movie, you see the different, basically failed Snoke clones in jars. So the idea, the extension, and this is kind of Star Wars, is like we're meant to fill in these plot holes. You're not giving me this information. I'm inferring that Palpatine created Snoke and urged Snoke to make that connection.
I know, but why? Like, was it all entirely just because Palpatine wanted some custody rights to his granddaughter?
I think
Like,
so,
was that
yeah. He
really the
needed
Yeah.
whole freaking point of this whole movie was just because an old dude wanted to be able to hang out with his granddaughter?
Well,
he
at
Like,
least
needed
in
an
the 8
heir.
to 9 rewrite,
you know
that's
well, you know what I mean? Like, but that's my point though, like, what was the real true reason? Like, it just seems so and if Palpatine is such an all-powerful Sith that doesn't care about any why would he even really care about his granddaughter in all honesty, you know? Those was kind of the things I felt like were just they just left him, you know? And maybe to Kyle's point, that's exactly what they wanted, but it it just feels it felt lazy, honestly, to me. Throughout the whole trilogy, it just felt like certain things were either all about fan service and nostalgia or just laziness. Like, we're Star Wars. We'll just do it this way and move forward. Who cares?
it is possible that it was the vision for it all, but
Or lack
what I'll
thereof.
say here is did it I had a few other questions queued up here, and I feel like you kinda answered them. One of them was when we saw 7 and 8 and we were unhappy with it, and at the time, Mike was very happy with it, uh, did I was like, I always said, as much as I dislike 7, I thought when the trilogy was complete, I wouldn't hate 7 as much. So, I guess there's the question is, and I think you're kinda I know the answer is gonna be here. After seeing 9, has your mind been changed on 7 and 8?
Is that,
Towards me.
I was gonna say, is that directly at me or is that open?
Oh,
Because I'm gonna let Mike
well,
go if it's not.
we'll let Mike go.
No, honestly, I still really enjoyed 7 and 8. Again, I thought building up the characters from 7 and 8, well, actually just Kylo, really. I because again, I couldn't care less who Rey was. I honestly hoped they would leave it a mystery or just keep it like they revealed that they were just trash pickers and they left her there, and that's just what it is. She just happens to be force sensitive and can do things that no one else can. But, um, I really enjoyed it. Again, the reason I like Kylo so much, the one scene where he fully loses control, and, point every gun we have at that man, and he's just losing his mind. I don't know, I just the rage in him spoke to me, I guess, and I just thought, "Man, this guy's full of anger," and I hope they really continue to do something with that because again, in my mind, someone that angry and force powerful should be pulling down star destroyers into pulling them from orbit into a planet and just wrecking shit
Like Star
on
Killer,
screen. And now that we actually have the CGI to do something like that, why not take full advantage of it?
for sure.
And Adam Driver could do it. He looks like a psychopath in real life anyway. I would fully believe that he's a crazy person. And yeah, that to me, I think was what I had hopes, had high hopes for, for 9 that they would come out and just build off of what they've already done and build up his character. Again, Ray, she was chump change compared to that's not the story I cared about because that was just another she could be another Skywalker for all I care. It doesn't add anything to the lore for me. It doesn't I thought Ben Solar was a cooler character than Ray was, and they should have. I'll take another prequel where it's Ben in training and he sees Luke ready to strike him down, and that's what we get a scene of more than the little flashback because I thought that was awesome. Build off of that rage. His master betrayed him. Again, Star Wars likes to go in full circles and all of this stuff, and what's more full circle than Luke being the master who betrayed his Padawan, just like his father's Padawan betrayed him, and all that good stuff. I thought that was really cool, and it was awesome. And then nothing. It just gets thrown to the side and
It
left to rot.
it's true. The thing that comes to mind for me is that each of the 3 movies are peppered with really decent spots that could have been turned into something great. Like, I had kind of forgot about, but when you talk about Kylo's temper tantrum in Force Awakens, that's actually one of my favorite moments
Right.
of
Yeah.
the whole, movie in the first one just because it was so different. Um
Don't lose focus. And he just grabs the dude, just chokes him out
Yeah,
with a force choke. That was
but
awesome.
to answer Kyle's question, I don't think that there was anything that was truly gonna make me change my opinions of 7 or 8, just because I saw 9. If anything, 9 made me realize that even with the story they told in 9, right? 9 made me realize truly how much better 7 and 8 could have been. Because think about it this way, right? We in 7 and 8, we got a hodgepodge of almost nothing stories. It was just a bunch of Han Solo and let's call back to this and
Right.
reshoot
Yeah. Fan
that
service.
fan service, right? Now that we know that Palpatine was on this Sith planet building this epic force, right, that made the Empire look like nothing. And the fact that Luke was hunting him down, then think about how much better the entire story arc would have been if the Force Awakens was all focused on them. Like if they knew that Luke was hunting Palpatine. And like maybe we didn't
Right.
see Palpatine, but we knew, okay, we are setting out because the Emperor isn't dead. Luke knew it. It's driving him a little nuts or whatever. You know what I mean? And like, or he found him
Or
something and he
even
hid. Like, if that
Yeah.
was the twist
just
versus he just ran from a little kid because he was scared, like, think about how much more dramatic that would have been or how much more invested we could have been.
or even just them looking for the planet, not even knowing what they're gonna find,
Right.
and then the twist reveal being just ha 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 ha
Right.
ha, and you're just like, "What?" And then cut to black,
But
that would have been awesome,
right,
yeah.
right, but if they would've set up essentially this, like, epic chase through 3 films, then I think I would've been way more balled in and way more interested, whereas, Force Awakens could have almost been a standalone film of some people we knew found some people we didn't. You
Right,
know?
yeah.
I mean, like, that's really all it is, and so I don't know, like, that to me was was probably the best way I could answer your question is it episode 9 just showed me how much opportunity they missed in 7 and 8 to set it up so that way episode 9 could have been so much more epic, you know?
Right.
So,
No, that's 100% I agree with that, and I had a bit of a follow-up here as to how did you feel it rounded out the trilogy? How did you feel it rounded out the Star Wars saga as a whole? And you both pretty much answered that where it left so many things open-ended, it could have done better at both, because of the potential of the storyline and where we could have gone, and the different options we had available to you, and chose to do none of them, chose to play it safe, both with I feel like Force Awakens was a play it safe moment
yep,
to the point where the opening line of that movie is, "This should begin to make things right." And I just think that's the most BS, like, bowing down to the old heads that saw the original trilogy, and they just basically wanted to remake the original trilogy instead of give me something fresh and something new
yep,
and showing me what the Star Wars universe could be. So we've kind of got feelings on Star Wars, both the good and the bad of what it's done. We'll take a look at a few specific moments. Specifically, there was a lot of paying homage to those old movies. Mike, did you have any standout moments that you liked or didn't like, or eye rolls moments at when Rise of Skywalker tried to pay homage to the older films?
Um, I didn't dislike really any of them. Well, at least none that come to mind right now. But one of the cooler aspects I thought was just when Ray and all of them were approaching that giant down Death Star and having to climb through it again. I thought that was kind of awesome. Um, but other than that, not really. I didn't have again. I like the fan service. I enjoy that stuff. That's always been one of the things that I do like about Star Wars that me and Chris never really agreed on. I don't
Just
mind
too
that,
much.
and I think
Just too
again,
much.
build on the lore, build it more,
Exactly.
and give us more little um little callbacks. Again, I thought the little training scene between Luke and Leia explaining how Leia's saber came into play was kind of neat because it was just building on lore that A, I didn't really know about, and B, that needed to be built on because why not? But as far as having an issue with any of them, no. The coolest part, though, probably, yeah, my favorite part was when they were just originally approaching that down Death Star and looking, almost Goonie style with that switchblade knife, whatever you want to call it, looking through, trying to line up the rocks and where they need to go. That was I thought was kind of cool.
That's cool. Chris, as a known hater of fan service, how
Yeah.
much moments you like, how much moments you didn't like?
Well, Mike hit on two of them for me. I will say probably my favorite moment of all of it, and I think we'll probably talk more about the ending here in a little bit, but my favorite visual slash moment of it was seeing Palpatine with the cables and everything hooked up and like moving around the Sith world. I thought that was really like super dark and was really cool. But the Death Star, I absolutely hate the Death Star at this point. I can't see any more Death Star 2.0, Star Destroyers, Starbase Killers. I don't know, like they're all the same freaking thing for 9 movies. So, but to give some credit where credit's due, those visuals were absolutely amazing of the down Death Star and the way it was like impacting the tidal waves and stuff. I thought that was top notch movie visuals and was fun to see. But I have to say to your point about Leia, man, I thought that the Leia flashback and like the nod that she's a Jedi was absolutely ridiculous. I thought it was pointless. I know that it was there to as a homage and to, pay tribute to her and Carrie Fisher. And I have no problem with Leia as a character, but once again, through 8 films, we've never seen Leia as a Jedi, and then in this film, we're getting a flashback that not only was she trained, but that she bested Luke. So now you're gonna set it up that Leia was actually better than Luke Skywalker at being a freaking Jedi, and yet she never used any of those skills and powers to help the rebellion that she was fighting so hard for. Like,
She did use them selfishly. She only used them to save herself, like, when she
exactly,
got blasted into space. I never thought about it that way. She is
exactly.
kinda selfish.
Exactly,
Terrible.
and, like, when they
Sorry,
did it no,
RIP.
no, you're fine, and when they did it in Last Jedi, right, it made sense, okay, like, people using force abilities here and there, that's not new, and,
Right.
like, when you're desperate and things come out, okay, like, she is a Skywalker, so it makes sense that she would be able to, like, save her life, but to now be like, "Oh, yeah, and Leia was trained, but she was just too much of a bitch to fucking, actually use it."
Right, and not
Yeah.
accidentally cut off one of her own limbs and just be perfectly capable of wielding a
Yeah,
lightsaber.
I don't know. It just didn't fit. It was just there to make everybody feel good about Princess Leia. And it doesn't help the movie to me. So like that's where I think that the fan service is double-edged sword. If they wanted to do some fan service and whatnot, bring a Han back or a Chewy, whatever, it totally fine.
Well, he did.
Yeah, no, totally fine. But to just pound it over and over
Right, yeah.
and make these sacrifices on what the new movie should be all in service to that, I thought was it's like Vince McMahon constantly bringing back Hulk Hogan.
True.
Like, Hulk
Yeah.
Hogan's awesome, but in 2020, do we need to see Hulk Hogan again? Do we need to see him wrestle?
Right.
Do we need to see do we need to know that Hulk
Takes him 10 minutes to get down to the ring at
Right,
this
yeah.
point, Vince. Give him a break.
It's just I don't know, like, I'll probably
Cheap
get some
pop.
hate for it. It's a cheap
Yeah.
pop. There you go. There you go,
Yep.
Kyle. It's a
That's a
cheap
perfect analogy.
pop.
Is it? You brought up Chewy, and neither one of you guys said it. No one's gonna say, "Well done, Chewy. He finally got his medal." You guys did. Y
That's not still not his medal though. It's just like, "Here, now that he's dead, you can have it."
It was Han's
He
medal,
wasn't
right?
dead.
No, it was
No,
Han's
he
medal, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's Han's medal, I thought.
Oh, well,
They passed
alright.
it along.
Yeah.
I thought it was a whole new medal. I didn't realize that it was Han's medal.
Yeah, no, that was just the old
I
hand-me-down.
think
There
there
you
was a
go, you
statement.
beast.
Uh,
I think there was, like, one line or something that, like, Han would have wanted you to have this, or it was something, I forget exactly what it was,
oh,
but I think there
oops.
was, like, one statement when
Yeah.
it happened.
There was a few others that I thought were pretty cool. I actually really enjoyed the Ben Solo no-look shot when he came around the edge and, like, he turned and did the no-look shot like the way Han used to do. Although what I wish had happened there is he would have said, "Guns, so uncivilized,"
Yeah, that would've
and
been sweet.
and
Yeah.
given me an Obi-Wan quote instead of a Han quote. I like that one. The one I did not like for me was it's in the same vein of Ben Solo, the shoulder shrug.
Oh, I was hoping you would mention this.
Did you like it?
No, honestly,
Oh,
that was
yeah.
another point of contention with me. They tried to make that callback to Han, and again, Han has a lot of charisma in the scene, you get it, but he's just kinda like, "Yeah, here, come and get me, Knights of Ren that won't do anything because you're all pushovers anyway. We trash canned you and your whole storyline." Ugh.
Do you think they did it just so they could hit the hashtag Ben Solo challenge that's been going around now?
I think they did it because Disney secretly, puts out their own social media ways, and they knew that that would just they already had that whole GIF lined up, and they're the ones that launched it on all those Russian, Instagram accounts, but
Yeah.
all of that just to create more publicity for their brand and, sell subscriptions to Disney Plus.
Mickey Mouse, conspiracy
Yeah,
theories here on GeeK
I was gonna
KetchUp.
say, don't get me started.
That'll be another chapter for
Yeah.
another day. Mike's theories on how Disney is the Illuminati.
100%, man. 100%. Don't trust the mouse. But if you're listening, sorry. I don't mean
Yeah.
anything. Don't hurt me.
No, Mickey, don't
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
all in
don't
good
kill
fun.
me, Mickey.
it's all
All in
good.
good fun.
Oh, all in all, I thought the Rise of Skywalker did a pretty good job of balance of trying to do these scenes and have some callbacks, but not overly affect the story. I mean, yeah, the Leia thing is a little strong, and that one really played into what the fans wanted to see from the Legends era because they wrote all those
Yeah,
Legends books where she did end up having a lightsaber and this and that, and so they were pulling. It was thin.
and I
Oh
think they also did it just, because of her passing. They just felt, we gotta do something real big to pay homage to her, I think.
yeah.
I don't agree at all, or I don't disagree at all. I
No,
totally
screw
think
that, man.
I totally think that
Yeah,
that's where it came from, was, she passed, she was always so beloved, like, I got it, but as a fan, I thought it was just ridiculous. I just didn't think it felt out of place and unnecessary to me,
yeah,
but I got why they did it.
yeah. Well, as we kinda draw to a close a little bit maybe here, Chris, you said the ending of the movie got you. In what way did it get you happy, sad, positive thoughts on the future of Star Wars?
So I feel like I'm gonna come in with all the strong opinions here. The ending was cool. I love seeing the Sith world, and Palpatine coming back. I thought was actually well done. The way that they displayed him. He was frail and struggling, even all that time later. But I really just thought it was another missed opportunity. I'm on record over and over again as saying that I think that Hollywood struggles to give bad guys their due. Thanos in the Avengers saga is probably the one exception where he truly got his due, and I kind of laughed at the end of the movie that after all this, and Palpatine's like shooting force lightning through the universe and doing all
Yeah,
like this ridiculous
just
display of
summoning
power.
the power of Thor at the very end there. It
Yeah,
was
he's like
nuts.
summoning past Siths, it looked like, with all the spirits in the arena or whatever it was when he's doing all of it, and then there's no battle, there's no anything. Like all all we got was that apparently all you have to do to kill the emperor is just hold up a second lightsaber. Like like, what? Like, there was no real battle there. There was no it felt anticlimactic to me. Like, Palpatine, the Emperor, is arguably the biggest bad in sci-fi and fantasy, you know, that's ever been created. Yeah, you
I mean,
can
moments before, he was draining their life energy
exactly.
and growing his own fingers back.
Right, and then she just, "I can't hold off, I can't hold off. No, no, no. Wait, I got one more lightsaber. Boom, dead. Game over."
Well, and then all of, the past Jedi spoke to her. I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't know. It was
you are one.
anticlimactic yet again. I'm like, you brought him back. Like, I've to me, going back to what I was saying about how they could have built the whole trilogy, like, could you imagine if we would have gotten a legit Emperor Palpatine versus Kylo and Rey, something where, like, Emperor is ultimate bad guy. He's the full embodiment of the dark side, and it's like, okay, it's gonna take somebody from the dark side and the light side to beat him. Like, it just all reeked of missed opportunity.
They
Kevin,
even teased that in the trailer. They teased it when that one scene where Kylo and Rey are I don't even think they're in the same room, but they destroy the whole mantle where Vader's mask was. And again, when at first glance, you didn't know it was Vader, but you just see them both together destroying something
That's
into
right.
dust, and you're like, "Whoa, that would be awesome." The 2 of them coming together to defeat whatever this big bad is that they're apparently attacking, not knowing what it actually was and having the full context, but yeah, I agree. They could have done that would have been amazing to watch. Again, if you're gonna kill him with 2 lightsabers, make it 2 Jedi or somebody with,
Right. Exactly.
2 different people wielding them. It doesn't need to be just the one Rey.
Exactly. Like, apparently lightsabers alone have the power to, like, reverse force
Reverse
lightning.
channeling lightning. Yeah, I don't understand that one either.
I don't know. It just was silly. Like, I thought it was a missed opportunity. I would have taken an extra 25, 30 minutes of that movie if we would have just gotten a freaking real fight scene between the 2 of them or the 3 of them
like a
to
Duel of Fates 2.0.
yes.
Yes.
It was there. It was there. We got a little bit of Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Darth Maul in episode 1. Then now you just wanted a full Rey, Ben,
Right.
the Emperor,
Yeah.
900-year-old Emperor. It would have been sweet.
Yeah.
Again, even if the Emperor didn't move and he just strategically was sniping them with, like, individual finger blasts of lightning, that would have been cool, and they were just having to deflect and try to work their way in just so they can get one final slice and misdirect, and they both cut him in half top it would have been awesome,
Anything.
but yeah.
Anything.
Yeah, literally any other, way they coulda ended it, I think would have been better.
So what did
Agreed.
I mean, I will say though, that ascot that he's wearing is freaking amazing.
It's pretty dope.
Might have been my favorite part of the movie. But no, for real, Kyle, though, what were your thoughts on the ending?
I as much as I enjoyed the overall movie, I didn't think it ended very well. I thought, I agree with both of you here that it was a little anticlimactic. Like, you've got this gigantic 9-movie buildup of this big bad, and then he just goes down in a blink, which is incredibly annoying. I also didn't like the whole Rey when she goes and she buries the lightsabers, and then the old woman asks her, "What's your name?" And she's like, "I'm Rey. I'm Rey Skywalker." It's like, wait, what? Why? Why is that important? Why is the
And
last name Skywalker important at all? Like, especially here at the end.
Yep.
and are you really? I'm pretty sure we just found out that that's not who you are, no
That you're
matter
not.
what you think, that's not the truth.
Is it nature versus nurture, Mike? Nature versus nurture.
That's all well and good. Be a good Palpatine. What's better than, again, bringing it all back to the original idea of Star Wars, the yin and yang factor, the most evil Palpatine in the world. Why not make
Yeah, why
her
not make
the
her good?
last remaining Jedi, the last remaining symbol of hope would be a Palpatine, just to prove that, again, anything is possible and anybody can come
That
back from
is
anything.
true. Like, after all that,
Full
we got the
circle.
Jedi text and everything. If I expected her to essentially set up another Jedi Order. But yeah, to your point, Mike, like, if they would have taken that and she would have started another Jedi Order and it's like, okay, yeah, we're left with a Palpatine leading the Jedi, that would have been well thought out, right? Like, that would
Right.
would have had some wit
Yeah.
to it and everything, and I just don't think they were on that level for any of these movies. Um,
Nope,
JJ
I don't think so
JJ
either.
Abrams has lost some of his street cred, with me as far as sci-fi goes with what happened in Star Wars. Like we all thought we were sitting pretty, right? And in reality, they should have given it to Kevin Feige and John Favreau, you know?
Yes. You just give everything to
Yeah.
those 2 and just get out of the way.
Where are you 2 a believer in the JJ cut, which has been circulating around the internet at all? Like Mike's giving me the no, you're both giving me
No.
the
I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
how
I've never
you've heard.
the fact that I haven't even heard of it, right,
Yeah,
and
Oh,
again,
okay.
enlighten us,
it could
Kyle.
yeah, please
So
do.
in kind of in the same vein as the Snyder cut, which I won't get into that, but I don't believe in that bullshit.
Right, that's
But
what I was, trying to relate it to because I don't believe in that shit either. Just release what you wanna release.
yeah, exactly,
Stand
exactly.
behind
And
it.
I won't get into the whole release the Snyder cut. I have too strong of feelings to get into the
Another day.
release the Snyder cut. Another day. But there's hashtag, release the JJ cut is I guess there are some rumors, none of them are confirmed. Rumors floating around that JJ Abrams has like a 3-hour cut of the movie somewhere that fills in all of these plot holes that everybody
I don't
is
believe it.
I don't
saying.
either.
But JJ himself hasn't come out and said, like, JJ has basically been like, "Nah, like, Disney didn't put constraints on me."
Yeah, why would you
Like,
hold that back?
Right, what would
yeah.
be the
Final
point in that?
movie, yeah, like, why would you not put it out? Like, Avengers
Well, that's
Endgame just made billions and it was 3.5 hours long, like
Exactly.
no, and I think they did exactly what they intended to do. I think especially if you look at episode 7 was like 90 minutes, and then episode 8 went like 2.5, and then this one was right around the 2 hour, 2:10, 2:20 mark
I think
maybe.
they said it was, like, 10 or 15 minutes shorter than Last
10 or 15,
Jedi.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was somewhere in the middle. I think that was very purposefully planned that they didn't want a 3-hour epic, but you're right, like, if you had the ability to make a 3-hour epic, why wouldn't you have made a 3-hour epic?
Yeah,
Especially with
exactly.
all of the buildup that we had going into it, right? It just seemed a little rushed, and again, if there is a 3-hour cut, then 100% release it, let us see it, and still say that it was weak and that you took the safe route.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever believe that that actually exists.
Yeah, hard to it's yeah, but I really do find it hard to believe that he's sitting on it somewhere.
It's strictly rumor based. It's strictly rumor based. So, and
Like, it's just fanboys getting their hopes up because they're a little disappointed.
I think so. And IGN
Search your
released this
souls.
Yeah, you know it to be true.
You know it to be true.
IGN did release this article that was basically like there's 26 plot holes from Star Wars Rise of Skywalker that are filled in by the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker visual dictionary. And with the idea that okay, this extra 40 minutes that we'd get out of the JJ cut would take the place of this visual dictionary. But I don't believe in it either. I don't I'm gonna put that out there. I don't believe in it. I don't think it's true. I just didn't know if you all had heard that rumor.
No, I
Yeah,
definitely am not.
never even heard of it.
Yeah. Well, one last thought here. We'll go around the horn, and hopefully, you guys have some sort of number or grade, or whether you want to make it out of 5, out of 10, make it an A, a B, a C minus, a total F. Get the hell out of here. Uh, what if you had to stick a number on it? What would it be? We'll go Chris first.
I mean, I felt the same way pretty much about all of them. Like, I was trying to sit back and think, like, okay, like, because I like this one more than the others, would I give it a higher grade? But all in all, I really feel like at best, each one of them were a 5 to a 6 out of 10. Like, I give them all the credit for music, visuals, they were all entertaining watching them through. But, when it comes to plot and the whole other things we've just talked about, the fact that I literally have yet to have any desire to go back. I've not watched Force Awakens since I saw it the first time. I've not watched Last Jedi since I saw it the first time. And I probably won't watch this one for a long time just because I don't really feel any need to. But for me, they all stuck there right in the middle. And I'm going to throw a follow up question out here to tag along as we go around here. But I'm also interested, or we can come back to it. But I want to know where everybody thinks that this trilogy fits into all three trilogies while we're on it. So we'll throw it over to Mike though. Let's stick to the rating of Skywalker, and then we're going to come back to that one.
Alright, so, uh, again, this was my least favorite out of the last trilogy. So I feel that I'm very lenient with my scores. I normally rate them pretty high. Again, I said I loved it after the first viewing, and within the first 10 minutes, didn't even walk out of the theater when I think I texted you guys that I loved it. So that being said, like Chris said, it was a really good visual movie. You know, the score was there, music was on point, CGI, everything. It was great. It was $1 million budgeted movie from Disney and Lucasfilms, and it was visually perfect. Being said, though, with all of my uh, unmet expectations, I would honestly a 7 out of 10. Uh, I went back after I watched this one. After I watched Rise of Skywalker, I went back and watched 7 and 8 pretty much back to back. You know, 2 days after I watched one, and then the day after that I watched eight.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I wanted that's when I really started to think to myself, okay, maybe this one isn't that great because after watching those two in such a short time span in between watching The Last Skywalker again, it made me think that yeah, this one is definitely the worst out of the three for me and would get the lowest score out of all three, and that would be a 7 out of 10.
That's an interesting dynamic between
Um,
the 2 of us throughout the trilogy, right, and how, like, I give it was the total opposite, you
yeah,
know?
it was, and it and I wanted to talk about this way before tonight and way before right now when we're recording this, but I knew if I'd even dropped the slightest hint that this is how I felt, that we wouldn't be able to really kinda control what we talked about because of how much of a drastic, 180 my opinion really did take on this movie because, again, when I was walking out of the theater, I thought I loved it, but then, the following day I watched 7, and the day after that, I watched 8, and I just really went back and thought to myself, it didn't live up to what these 2 prior movies built for it to live up to, and, overall, it just left me disappointed.
Fair enough. What about you, Kyle?
Well, you guys have already stated the visuals and the score, the John Williams score, uh, always there. It's always there. The sound effects are always there. Pretty sure that it's nominated for a visual effects uh,
Probably, yeah.
Academy Award. Um, so all of that gets it to a 5 or 5.5 for me. And then I'm a sucker because I'm a fanboy and I'm a Star Wars, geek. So every Star Wars movie gets a one number bump for me, just on the simple fact that it's Star Wars. I know that it might be cheap, but the cheap pop's getting me. So in the end, it's gonna get like a 7. So it's a 6 movie overall that's getting the one one number bump, so I'll put it at a
A
7.
free
There
point.
would there it gets
Yep.
the free point. It gets the free point because it's Star Wars and I love Star Wars, but you're right, there are a ton of plot holes. It's still a very enjoyable movie. I actually thought that it closed out the saga well, but it because it, had so many callbacks and so many references, but it didn't finish out the trilogy very well, and that's a tough balance to strike.
For
So
sure.
maybe
Yep.
they did their best. You feel like they probably could have done better if you're gonna be J.J. Abrams and
Yeah.
tout yourself as, like, J.J. Abrams, the name in sci-fi. Not that he's gone around and said that about himself, but I feel like he's probably said that in private.
But I think, like, all in all, though, the big key thing, and I know I've gotten some of this because I've been hard on Star Wars, but really the core is the fact that we are all lifelong Star Wars fans. Like, one of the reasons why I am so hard on Star Wars is because I like Star Wars so much, and I mean that
Exactly.
wholeheartedly. I love The Mandalorian, and I've talked on this show about how much I love The Mandalorian. Like, that right there proves that it's not just a Star Wars issue, you know? It was just these Star Wars, and then Solo
Yeah.
was terrible too. But but, like, I just want more quality Star Wars where we get to see new things, When I talk about the Death Star, it's just because it was just tired of seeing it for 30 years, You've got this vast universe, you can do literally anything you want, so go take some of those liberties and be creative and
I
fresh, That's really my number one gripe when it comes to all of it is let's move on.
I was to say, and I really hope that since they're making such a big deal about the Skywalker Saga coming to an end, that they just stick with it. And like you said, Chris, they have a huge universe. Let's expand on it again. You discounted Legends for so long, but you're slowly starting to build up your canon lore again and adding new things from them and trying to adapt them and stuff like that. So hopefully they do uh continue on that path. I have a question because you two both came up with a question, so I figured I'll come up with one real quick. But to answer your question, Chris, I think this, as far as where does it rank, it ranks last for me.
As
Um,
far as the
well,
trilogies
actually,
go.
no, yeah, probably second. The prequels are pretty. Again, everyone hates on them, but they are pretty bad. But they have good points, and they have certain aspects that are cool. They introduce, pod racing again. That's cool, but they're not overall the best. So it's probably sits right in the middle, which is kind of fair to speak to the overall trilogy. But my question is, do you know of any celebrities in this one that were under the hoods of stormtroopers? Because I know Aaron Rodgers was in uh blanking on the name, The Last
Who's
Jedi. He had a
yeah.
part in it where he was a stormtrooper, and you didn't know who he was, but he came out and said that he was. And I've heard that there are select celebrities, and there might be celebrities. I think Ed Sheeran, I heard, might be underneath one of the helmets. But have you heard any celebrities, or has anybody on your Twitter feeds claimed to be under one of the helmets?
I'll let Kyle answer first.
Well, I know Daniel Craig was in Force Awakens, or maybe he was in Last Jedi. He was whatever stormtrooper that Rey mind tricked. They say that that was Daniel Craig.
When
And
she's
then
like in the chair,
when she's in the chair,
I did not know that. And yeah, he's the one that releases her.
yeah, they've said that that's Daniel Craig. I've
Really?
also heard that the Prince Harry and Prince William are in it at some point as well. Um, and there's cameos all throughout it, like crazy amount of cameos. I feel like I just looked at something that was like every celebrity that was ever, so it's a bit of a cheat because I think I just looked at something like that this week that said every celebrity that was in Star Wars that you didn't recognize, but it encompassed all of the new movies. So I don't no one stick out. I mean, you've got what's his name that played Wedge, the guy from Heroes that J.J. Abrams just loves.
Yeah,
I can't think Greg something. I can't remember his last name.
gotcha.
I only know him from Heroes.
Agreed.
Uh,
Yeah, didn't he die in this one too?
yeah, he died in this one.
Yeah, so they
Yeah,
closed out his
yeah, he died
character
in this
arc.
one. Carrie Russell played the bounty hunter that was Poe's love interest. Um,
I did hear that.
yeah, Carrie Russell played her, which is really funny because she's like, it's kind of like a Mandalorian situation where you've got this like really attractive actor when you're putting a helmet on them, and then you're not letting them show their face. That's interesting to me. But
True.
no, so I'm basically sitting here saying like, no, I don't have any core celebrities that I know for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I didn't hear of any. No, at least not that I've seen or gotten my attention. I honestly kind of forgot that was a thing until you just brought it up. Like I remember the stories and it being a little bit more publicized after Force Awakens and Last Jedi, but I don't think I've seen any headlines or anything that was like, "Oh my god," Madonna was
Right,
in
yeah.
there or whatever.
Maybe in a few years, when they get when the DVD releases or something like that, and
True. So
Yeah.
Kyle, where would the trilogy rank for you
It's last.
last?
Yeah, it's last, and I don't know if necessarily all 3 would be at the bottom of the barrel as far as if I had to rank all 9 movies. I'm not saying that these 3 movies would be at the bottom with 7, 8, 9 being 7, 8, 9. Because I imagine I probably like 9 more than I liked Attack of the Clones.
Sure.
Maybe. That I'm not saying that 100% for sure, so I may change my mind on
Put them
that
side by side one day.
right, yeah, watch them
if we
back to back and
ever
see what goes on.
review. Well, I kinda did. While you watched 7 and 8 right after you saw 9, I actually watched 7 and 8 the 2 days prior to going to see 9.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Got that
and
refresh.
So, and then really, and
yeah,
then so coming directly out of it, that's interesting.
and it's but see, I say I didn't I liked it as an ending to the saga. The ending to the trilogy is whatever, because I could have cared less about the trilogy. So, like, there's my answer, like, really, I just couldn't get invested. I thought Poe was just not likable for 3 movies, and I like Oscar Isaac, and I like Oscar Isaac, but he's not likable. Finn
They didn't give
is
him
just
enough screen time.
yawn.
Right.
Like, yeah, Finn was like he instantly changed his allegiances and a lot of the stuff that
Had a lot of running away, man.
a lot of running away. Ray, I wanted to like Ray, just never got around to it. The only character that I like genuinely liked was Kylo, and then I kind of liked General Hux because I thought they had the makings of turning him into like a Moff Tarkin situation, but then they just turned him into a bee. And he was just
Right.
like the whole comedy skit at the beginning of Last Jedi totally ruined any credibility that that character could have ever had. And then he turns into be the spy and then gets shot in 2 seconds to be replaced by some
Right.
older
Again,
character that
couldn't
has
even
served
kill him off
Palpatine.
cool. Couldn't
Yeah,
even get him to be, like, choke ripped apart or force ripped apart or anything. Nope, just
yeah.
shoot him real quick.
At least Moff Tarkin went down with the ship when the Death Star exploded. He kinda like
He was an
on the
honorable man.
yeah, he was an honorable man.
Titanic style.
Actually, like, just sat there and just, down with the ship as the band plays.
Exactly.
So, to cut myself off from rambling, yeah, I'd say that it's 3rd. I have this love for the prequels, and so I don't wanna fully admit that the prequels might be my favorite, but I was a kid when
Why
the
not?
prequels came out. So,
Yep.
for me, it's probably prequels, original, and then this one, and I know that the prequels are bad movies. I know that. I know that they're bad movies, but I like a lot of bad movies, so
Again, the prequels had good points, man. They had some
yeah.
cool things. Darth Maul is awesome,
Yep.
and it's not like they didn't supply anything, but, Hayden Christensen just is so bland, and it's hard to
It
listen.
it's
Hey, he's good in Jumper.
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Well,
true.
no, Samuel L. Jackson makes him good in Jumper, just like he makes him good in, yeah,
Samuel
Mace
Jackson
Windu,
makes
man.
everybody good.
Exactly.
It's
We'll get back to Chris
interesting.
here.
Well, it's interesting because and Kyle and I have talked about this before that each of the trilogies kind of suffers from some of the same symptoms that take them down a peg. And the number one reason, I don't care what anybody wants to say, the number one reason why the original trilogy has so much love is because it was showing people things that they had never seen before. Like in the 70s, sci-fi movies were still in their infancy. The technology to even make a lightsaber look like a lightsaber was literally melting people's brains. You know what I mean? Like people had
Yeah.
not seen that stuff before, and so I think that they always got a big push from that. I think for me, it would this trilogy would fall into the bottom. It'd be in that third spot. I also argue that I think that if you remove or change Hayden Christensen and Jar Jar Binks out of the prequels, that people's overall opinions of the prequels will be very different because you can't talk to anybody that hates on those films without the first two things coming out of their mouth are Jar Jar Binks and Hayden Christensen.
It's
They
true.
don't hate on anything else. The overall plot and direction and story of the prequels was definitely way more together than in these films,
I
in the recent
100%
ones,
agree. Yeah.
So I think if you kind of have like a really small couple of missteps, and Jar Jar was a terrible one. I'm not defending Jar Jar, but you know what I mean. Like I think you take those, we were alternate universing, and you took those two aspects and changed them to anybody else or any other creature. I,
Made Jar Jar a dark Sith, man.
yeah, I think it would have helped those out a lot, but I find it kind of interesting the way Kyle, the way you answered that was like depending on how you look at it or cut it up, it seemed like maybe they all kind of fell into different areas or different rankings.
Yeah.
There could be some interesting conversations for the future there.
It really would it would come down to individual movies. I know that individual movies would fall in different areas, but when you have to stack them, like you can't look at it as just Empire
Right.
or just Return of the Jedi. You have to look at it as the original trilogy or, you know, just Phantom Menace, just Revenge of the Sith. No, it's the prequel trilogy. That's the way it
That whole
falls.
story. Yeah, you have to take it
Yeah.
all into account.
Yeah, and the one thing you can say about the prequels and the original trilogy that you can't really say about the sequel trilogy is at least it was a complete story.
Yep.
True.
Like, at least
Yeah.
they did that. At least the prequel, whether it's a good story or a bad story, it's a complete story here, 1, 2, 3, and same with 4, 5, 6. It's a bit of a complete story. 7, 8, 9, it's like 7's one story, 8's another story, 9's a totally different one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, let's cut half of each of those and try and put it together to make a conclusion.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the only
Fail.
consistency continuity is the 4 characters
Right.
that none of us give a shit about.
Exactly.
Oh, and that could have been some of the problem too for me, was just that none of them were as captivating as I felt, some of the characters from the original 6 were.
Yeah.
Um, and then seeing the completely different versions of some of those characters in the prequels versus what we saw in the originals. I definitely think that that was a factor as far as how I felt about these films.
But there it is. You got our thoughts on Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Bit divisive here. Some people we thought were gonna love it ended up hating it. Some people that we thought were gonna hate it ended up not minding it so much. Not gonna go as far as say that I loved it. But hopefully you can check us out on social media. Give us your thoughts on Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker and how you felt about it. Did you enjoy the end of the trilogy? Did you enjoy the end of the Skywalker saga? We are interested to hear from you.
Thank you for listening to GeeK KetchUp. If you enjoyed today's chapter, please remember to subscribe to GeeK KetchUp on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Check out GeeK KetchUp on Facebook and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram @GeeK KetchUp Pod for updates on new episodes every 2 weeks. Stay saucy.